All right. And on today's episode, we are talking to B from Cjam Marketing. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
So tell the listeners, tell the people that are tuning into this, what it is that you do. Maybe that kind of like that 2-minute elevator pitch version.
Sure. Well, I always like to share what I do. I still work 2 jobs, right? But those 2 jobs kind of go very well hand in hand. My day job, I work as a customer solution architect, which basically is an engineer. I'm basically an engineer that basically talks to businesses anywhere from 100 to 1,000 person size, typically talking to C-level executives about business strategy, IT, what they're struggling with, and then building them out a technology roadmap. So I have a lot of experience in terms of like the business consulting and engineering side. But on the marketing side, the Cjam marketing side, I work as a marketing broker. Initially, I started doing websites, Google Ads, SEO. As I was doing that, I noticed I didn't have a lot of time to actually do the work I would sell to customers. So I started looking for agencies to outsource work to. And as I was doing that, I started noticing that most agencies didn't understand business and most business people didn't understand marketing. But you'd have these 2 people in the same meeting trying to talk to each other, but they couldn't understand what they wanted to do moving forward for their businesses. So I thought, cool, I have this business, the background in the business side of things, an engineering degree, and I know marketing. So maybe I can start matching the right agency partners with the right businesses. Over the last 3 years, I've vetted hundreds of agencies. I work with a partner list of today about 50 plus agencies, and that's what I do.
Yeah, it was a very funny insight that the marketing agencies don't know business and the business companies don't know marketing. That's so true. I can count on all the fingers and toes on my body how many conversations in the past 9 years that I've had where like someone came in being like, look, we just need to get our conversion rate up to here. This is how I think we could do it. They're just like, what's a click-through rate? Oh,
They come in
Jesus.
and their
Yeah.
friend just told them over a beer, like, hey, you need to be doing SEO. And it's like, they come to you and you're like, well, you don't even have a brand strategy. You have nothing to build your SEO strategy off of. So hold on a second. Let's take a step back. It's pretty funny. A lot of the conversations I have, I do a lot of consulting, like free consulting up front. So
Right. And it's interesting because I think, marketing is one of those services that's very hit and impacted by shiny object syndrome, right? Which is like, oh, my friend told me I got to do YouTube, or this person said I have to be on TikTok. And now I want to blow up everything I'm doing to dive in and like this new thing, we have to do it. It's kind of crazy.
it's a tough place for businesses to be in too, right? As an agency owner, you need to understand that there's so many different ways of doing marketing, right? There's no one set way to do something. There could be 5 or 6 different ways. Being able to simplify that down for a customer and say, look, we can do this in multiple ways. It's just going to depend on who you are as a business and your personality to choose which way makes most sense for you in terms of risk and cost and all that.
Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely. Well, I know that you work on both sides, but the area that I'd love to stay on today is the agency owners who don't know how to run businesses. So obviously we're not going to hand out business advice on how to structure your company today, but I think it will be really helpful. You see both sides of it. You've been involved in the pitch presentation and execution, but also now the brokerage side, which is having third-party conversations with people and getting real feedback, right? Because you're getting feedback that you wouldn't get if you were the agency. And if you were the business, you're getting the real information because you're sitting in the middle as an independent person. And so what I'd love to dive into is, as an agency owner or someone trying to grow a marketing business, what are the top mistakes or biggest things that you see being done incorrectly when you're marketing yourself, when you're pitching to a company, when you're presenting what you do? Like, what are the biggest issues that you see?
I guess we could start this in terms of the customer journey. Let's start at the top, right? Like you just met a customer as an agency owner and just having that first meeting. And a lot of the biggest mistakes I see from whether it's like junior agencies or even some expert agencies is that they focus a lot on themselves versus actually focusing on the customer. And so a lot of the conversations start as, hey, we do this as an agency. We've done this. We have these logos. We have these customers. And like you're 15, 20 minutes into a meeting and the customer hasn't even spoken a word. And how are you supposed to position your agency if you don't even understand what matters to the customer? And so I flip that, like that 2-minute speech I did in the beginning. That's all I say in my customer meetings. The rest is let's talk about your business. Let me understand what your goals are. 5 minutes to the end, I might actually talk about, now that we went through your entire business, I understand what your goals are, who your competitors are, what you tried, what agency you use, what you like, what you don't like. Then I go, okay, based on that, I have some agencies that will be able to fill in the gaps that I think will help you get to the goals you want. Right? Now you've totally shifted the conversation of like, it's not about me. This is fully about you, Mr. Customer. And I'm going to position my agency the best way to help you. On top of that, customers build a lot of trust when you understand their business goals, you're understanding what they're trying to do. And maybe you're just an SEO agency. And you can only help with a little piece of that. Just being honest about that and saying, look, you might actually need to figure out the rest of your funnel, or might need to figure out the rest of your marketing before I can come in and help. And when you do that, those customers will come back, and then they'll come back when they're ready, but you put them in a better position to not fail. That's kind of like
interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think the power of that insight can't be overstated, because as a coach listening to sales calls, sometimes, the person that's trying to pitch, one of two things can happen, right? They really want this client. They want to get it. So they're kind of saying, not lying or manipulating, but kind of like stealing the conversation in a way that gets the yes. And what can happen with that is, you're right. If you don't have control over each piece, or if you don't have expertise in each piece that makes your piece successful, getting them to sign up and onboard, is great for the money now, but the longevity of that customer and the trust and length of the contract can really be impacted if they aren't set up in other ways for success. So that's a really great point.
100%. Another area, let's talk about a full service agency. Typically, you start seeing those agencies when they get to that 15-person range. For those types of agencies, the important thing to understand is you can't be good at everything. Everyone outside that knows agencies knows that the likelihood is you're good at 2 or 3 things. Double down on those and be honest about the other stuff. Listen, we're kind of average at this stuff. We'll do it for you, but we're kind of average. Just be transparent with customers around those things. That'll help you retain customers longer. Once you get a customer, they know that, your website's really strong. You're good at PPC. You're really good at SEO. But if they need affiliate or they need email, maybe you need to find partners that you can also outsource to, rather than just taking something on that you can't do. And then you're trying to hire a head count and you're trying to take someone's attention away from what they're really good at to something that they're not really good at. And then everyone isn't doing well in those situations. And so I find that's another mistake I see quite often.
I went through this experience, this fear of, wait, if we don't control these 2 or 3 things, they will have an impact on the project not working. I always had this thought, well, it has to be me. We have to do it. We have to figure it out. I remember vividly in my 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year of business, there were several times where we got halfway through a project. And I'm like, what are we doing in this project? Why are we developing this automation sequence? What is happening right now? But you do it because you want that fear of, if we don't take care of it all, then they're going to go somewhere else that can do it all. But it's an interesting perspective that even the bigger companies, most of the time, have one or those couple areas of expertise, and everything else is manageable, but not great.
To really cover all areas, you either need to be a really large agency and your customer needs to have a really large budget. That's one of the ways to do it. And the other one is a customer might have an internal CMO, but then have a bunch of niche agencies that they work with, and that internal CMO brings it all together. That's the only way you can really do it well. As an agency, just calling that out and saying, look, this is the way the industry is built, Mr. Customer. Let me share with you some insights so that you don't go out thinking there is this one agency that will do it all. The likelihood is they're going to do the same thing. They're good at 2 or 3 things. Unless you've increased your budget dramatically, it's not going to be what you expect it to be.
So those are really great points. Being upfront with what you're good at from the get-go, asking a lot of questions, and really diving into what the genuine need of this customer is a great place to start. When you're not niched down, I spent a lot of years not having any niche, just we run these types of ads for anybody, versus now where we're hyper niche. We only work it's a very, very specific type of company that we work with. What are some ways that you can go into a conversation intelligently when you are not super niche down from an industry perspective? When I think about my ideal customer and who that person is and mapping out all their stresses and what success would look like for them, it's very easy if you're in one specific bucket, like audiology. I know what they're concerned about. I know where their marketing knowledge shortfall typically lies. But for somebody who's we do these specific services for a wider group of people, do you have any thoughts or advice on how to hone in that conversation?
Yeah, I guess the best way that I would go at it from a sales perspective is, one, always going back to my first point, stick to the business, right? Understand the business. When people feel that they're understood, that's a big plus in your direction. Then on top of that, when you're talking to customers, explaining that you are getting different experience or different exposure from different industries allows you to see the big picture that some very niche agencies may not see. Because say you just only work with course creators. Over time, that niche agency continuously figures out the course creator stuff to get so specialized that they don't come back and look at the big picture of what else could we try? What else could be different? They're not getting experience from other industries that could actually be leveraged for a course creator. At the end of the day, you need to just be a really strong marketer. You need to tell customers, look, we're really good at marketing. Within 2 months, by the time we figure out the customer profiles, what we're targeting, doing all these different types of things, we're really good at marketing. We can figure it out. That's what I tell customers too when they come to me, when they're saying, I want a niche agency for this. I'm like, look, niche isn't always better. Like just because they have 4 or 5 people doesn't, like 4 or 5 customers in that niche. Yeah, they might know the niche better than, someone who's never done it before. But if you have a really strong marketer versus a niche agency where the marketing isn't strong, I would choose the really strong marketer, invest in them for the next 3-4 months and know that they're going to be ahead in the long run than that niche agency that just kind of niched because they had to, because they couldn't get business any other way.
Interesting. That's a very unique perspective on that. I like that. Cool. So, we've kind of unpacked what this person needs. We're really focused on them in the call. We're being open and honest about what we're great at, what we're mad at, but saying, hey, come along for this ride because we can take you in the direction you need to go. I'd love to shift into now. Okay. So now we're putting together a proposal. We're pitching. Are there any big pitfalls, errors, mistakes that you see agencies making in the pitch? And part 2 to that question, from the business side, the person who's making the decision to buy that service, are there anything that you see agencies not doing well or things that they should do more of or less of to make that business feel more comfortable or more likely to move forward with them?
Yeah. So there's a few things on that proposal side. The first mistake I see starts right from the beginning. If you're not focusing on the business, it falls into your presentation too. A lot of the stuff I see is when you get into a presentation, the first thing you do is start talking about yourself. The first 5 minutes, the last 5 minutes of a presentation are the most important. That's where the attention sticks. In the middle, it's not really that important. It's the beginning and end. So what I recommend is if you've had that good discovery call and you understand the business goals, the first thing you should talk about after your slide of this is my intro, it should be, look, these are the business goals and objectives that you, Mr. Customer, told us. And that's why we're focusing on this plan based on these business goals and confirming them. Can you confirm that we got this right? If they say no, then you know that you missed something. So you get them to clarify right then and there what their business goals are. After you have that, then the rest of your presentation is built on saying, we know what your business goals are. Here's the plan that we want to do for you to achieve your goals. And here's why we're the chosen partner. And here's how much we're going to cost, right? So when you layer it that way, the customer goes, they understand me. They have a plan for it. They're the guys that are going to guide me from A to B. That increases the likelihood of you closing that, or at least getting the customer to follow along.
Got it.
The other big thing is that I see a lot of times you'll take the discovery call, do the proposal, send the proposal in an email, and then just sit there. You expect the customer who doesn't understand marketing as well as you do to go through your proposal and go, oh, this makes sense. You have to present that proposal. Like it has to be presented, and then you send it to them afterwards, right? Or some customers like it pre-handed, which is fine. But that's another big thing. I've noticed a lot of agencies just don't present it and their close rates are much lower.
I'm working with someone right now who I'm forcing to do the presentation. I have a certain understanding about marketing as the business owner, but if you present to me something and I don't understand the second bullet point, I'm already tapped out. I'm already like, oh, I'm too stupid to understand this. This feels overwhelming. I don't want to do it. You don't have the ability to handle objections in any capacity unless you're there answering those questions. I agree. It's critically important. I love the format. Reconfirm what the goals are. Express that this plan is specifically tailored to those goals. So those 2 pieces are very subjective. So it's really hard for me to ask questions about that. But the part about why us, why you should work with us, I'd love to dive a little bit deeper into that. Where do you see, what are the most successful or the most important things to emphasize when you're expressing that part of your presentation, which is the why we're the people you should move forward with?
Yeah. So it can mix to a bunch of different things. It's really depending on the agency and what your strengths are. And so the why us is really comes down to who you guys are as an agency. And so, highlighting the values that you have, if the values align with the business's values, trying to basically find things that connect business. If you have awards, that's always good. If you have actual use cases that apply to that specific customer, like in their niche or whatever, or something similar, highlight those, tell them what you did, walk them through what you did. Your thinking, your thought process, the communication aspect. You basically want to answer the questions up front for the customer of what it's going to be like working with you and what they can expect, right? And at the end of the day, business is a human to human interaction. So try to connect, look up their business and see what they do, volunteer work, charities. Is there anything you can align with to say your business and our business are aligned? and I'm aligned to your goals. So that's why you should work with us.
Yeah. So got it. So case studies, awards are kind of like that top level surface piece that help, right? And then where can you build a real connection? Because ultimately, if you're on the phone with the decision maker, they don't even have to believe in your entire process because they probably don't even understand it, right? They're just like, I'm taking your word that what you're telling me is the thing to do. But if they knew it, then they would just have this in-house or deal with it themselves, right? So ultimately, like all the like deliverables and all the strategic pieces, from my experience, they don't even really care that much. It really is just like, do I believe that you understand me enough? Do I trust you if I give you money that you'll do the thing that you said you're going to do, which is help me achieve the goal? I read a lot of proposals and I see a lot of documents that are like, there's 2 or 3 pages of deliverables in the Google Slides. And I was like, why are there 15, 20 bullet points? They don't care. They want to know what the process is going to look like, what the experience is going to look like, and does it feel like you're credible enough to get me to the finish line on this thing? Those are the only things people care about.
100%. When you start doing those bullet points, you open yourself up too. Can I take this bullet point out? Why are we doing this? You actually make it harder for you to sell by putting way too much detail into it. If they ask for it, answer it. But if they don't, start at the high level. That's what people care about.
Yeah. Awesome. One more subject that I want to bring up. So the person now goes through that process, right? We've had a great discovery call. We've presented ourselves in a way. We've made them feel understood. We brought them a presentation that confirms their goals, makes them know that we understand it and know how to solve it. And they say, great, sounds good. What I've experienced and what I see and what I hear from people is great. So they say yes. What are the main things to focus on now to onboard that person in the most successful way possible? Because I'm excited, I say yes. But what then happens is like, great, now I got to give you access to stuff. I don't even know where some of this stuff is. What is a Google Analytics account? Where do I find it? Someone, 10 years ago, they created it. We don't have access to it anymore. From onboarding and getting everything up and running, those first critical few days, weeks, whatever you want to call it, what are the biggest things that people can do to make the customer feel like they're getting a great experience?
I guess I don't see a ton of that because once I pass it off to an agency, they typically go through stuff. But in my interviews with agencies, I do ask what their onboarding process is. At the end of the day, the best agencies have processes in place. They're not just going off the cuff based on each individual customer. They're going, here's the documents. Please fill this out. It's systematized and it's the same for every single customer. It answers all the customer's questions. Once you start with a base outline, you can iterate on that. Like, oh, we missed this or we missed that. Over time, you have a process that works for pretty much 95% of your customers. And it makes it really easy for you to get information and get started versus trying to figure out, oh, we need this, we need that. Like, have to have those systems in place. It could be a Word document, a Google document, it could be whatever it is. Just have a process in place so that you can reiterate and automate that part of the process as much as you can so you get the same result at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. On behalf of agency owners, what did I not ask you that they should think about, know, prepare, build? Any thoughts, anything that I missed where you're like, it'd be really helpful if agencies knew this about selling their services to businesses?
I've noticed this thing where as agencies grow, once you're 1, 2, 3 people, that's totally fine. You get to a growth of about 15 or 20. There's this fundamental shift where as an owner, you need to start stepping out of your business and get the business to run by itself. The people that do that successfully are the ones that are able to get out of the business at that point. I see another one kind of happen at that 40 or 50 person level too. You get to a certain scale that you need to have certain processes and systems in place. So just being aware that growth is important, right? Everyone wants to grow. Growth is important, but with growth comes a whole new set of expenses, people you need to hire and processes you need to build. Always think about where you want to be and where you want to go and have those systems in place. But sometimes it's okay to just be a certain size. Some of my best agencies we're 20 people. We don't want to get bigger. We can cater 20 customers a year and that's all we want to do. And we were just vetting to make sure we get the right customers. Those agencies know what they want and they figured out exactly who they are. So I think it's really important to think about yourself as an agency owner and where you want to go. It's not always growth that matters. It's going, I'm going to focus on the customer. I'm going to take care of the customer. And if I do that at 20 people and we do it for 20 businesses all the time and do it well, you make a very profitable business out of that.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that because when agency owners and marketers are on the internet, everything on YouTube, everything is about, get to 8 figures, hyper growth, do this, do that. I have conversations with people all the time. And my first question is why? Well, I think it's widely accepted that once you get to $1 million a year, you're super happy. That my profit margins are outrageous. I do 650,000. I pull a ridiculous salary. All my life expenses are paid for. I have no stress and I work 60 hours a month. It's really interesting that you say that the best performing ones look like that because they can focus on how do we make our process better? How do we maximize profit while still delivering a good product? Whereas the people that are in hyper growth at 15 people, there's this evolution, all these extra things you have to add. Then you get to 40, 50 and you have to almost recreate the entire business. And so every time you do that and every time you reach that next plateau, there's the learning curve, the drop off, the problems, the challenges. So yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I'm very motivated in the opposite way. As opposed to growth, I'm like, how do I stay small and be massively profitable? That's what I care about. If someone wants to reach out and learn more about you or contact you, where would they best go?
Well, you have my website, www.cjammarketing.com. You'll have my email address on there. It's just my last name, Jamshidi, at cjammarketing.com. And those are probably the two best ways to get a hold of me. Or just add me on LinkedIn.
Sounds great. All right, man. I really appreciate your time. I'm thinking about the next conversation we had, going a little granular in some other directions, but this was fun. And I think from a lot of agencies who struggle with one of these pieces, I think this will give some good direction to start with. And we can go from there.
Awesome. I'm glad. Thanks for having me.
Man.